This video is sponsored by Premium Sound, one of the UK's premier dealers located in Kensington, London, with an online store carrying a comprehensive inventory to cater for a variety of needs. For more details, click the link in the description. Musical Fidelity had a Nu Vista range of amplifiers back in the late 90s. Nu Vistas are little ceramic tubes, but I'll get into what's special about them later. The Nu Vista 800 integrated amplifier was one of the most successful products in Musical Fidelity's history. It was discontinued in 2021 due to certain parts becoming unavailable, like the retro display. But not the Nu Vista tubes. Musical Fidelity have a stockpile of them. Over the last couple of years they've been re-releasing Nu Vista products after sourcing alternative components, redesigning circuits and making improvements. But Nu Vista is Musical Fidelity's flagship range of products, and they don't come cheap. The pre-power version will set you back in excess of £40,000, and that's without the optional external power supplies that you see here. They make the current Nu Vista 800.2 integrated amplifier look like a relative bargain, with an asking price of £10,999. I was very tempted to review the 800.2 last year, but I was aware that its little brother was in development and I wanted to review that first. This is still the most expensive integrated amplifier I've reviewed to date, so could the new Musical Fidelity Nu Vista 600.2 finally be the product to replace my vintage Exposure 21 Pre and 18 Super monoblocks in my affections? Let's find out. The Musical Fidelity Nu Vista 600.2 retails for £7,999 and is available in silver or black. It's a beast weighing 36 kilograms, just under £80. It's too big to fit on my rack, hence it's on the floor but well isolated, measuring 483 by 187 millimeters and 510 millimeters deep. That's 19 by 7.4 by 20 inches. The Nu Vista amp is unmistakably a premium looking and feeling product, with the chassis, buttons and dials all machined from aluminium. The power up button is discreetly located below the input selector dial. As a nice touch, the Nu Vista tubes are visible and can be illuminated on the top panel. They're red on startup, then turn amber and finally blue once up to temperature. I'd have preferred blue for the transition and then amber, so that the Nu Vistas remain bathed in a warm glow when in operation. The display has various options that I'll discuss later, including graphical VU meters in keeping with the modern design. In my opinion, it's only bettered by the charm of old school analog meters as found on some premium Japanese amplifiers. The 600.2 is a purist amplification solution. Other than the controls I've already mentioned, there's a rotary dial for adjusting the volume in half dB steps. The two discreetly located buttons below it are for the display settings. Musical Fidelity hasn't cheaped out on the remote control either. It's built out of one piece of aluminium, replicating the functions on the front panel, but has direct button access for the 6 inputs. There are 4 single-ended RCA inputs, a fixed volume line level output and a set of pre-outs. There are also 2 balanced XLR inputs, as well as a balanced XLR output. The Nu Vista 600.2 has 2 sets of speaker terminals for bi-wiring. They're of reasonable quality, but I'd have preferred one premium set, such as WBT connectors. Inside the Musical Fidelity Nu Vista 600.2 is a preamplifier section mounted to a tray above the power supply. The power amplifier boards are mounted to the left and right heat sinks in this dual mono design. Preamplifier section removed, and you may notice that there's quite a bit of empty space. The 600.2 shares the same chassis as its 800.2 sibling that has significantly more components based around the same architecture. There are 2 400VA toroidal transformers and 8 Jamicon filter caps totaling 48,000 microfarads. I'm a little disappointed to see caps from a mid-tier Taiwanese manufacturer on an amplifier at this price. I feel some Japanese caps would have been more appropriate. Designers tend to stick to component manufacturers they know and trust. For example, Sugden use Korean Samwa caps. There is a lot more to the sound quality of a product than the quality of the capacitors, but there's sell-direct Chinese manufacturers these days that produce casework just as impressive as this amplifier, and they're packed inside with capacitors from the likes of Elna, Rubicon, Nishikon, or that quality. Now, they make some fabulous sounding DACs, but I haven't heard any amplifiers from these brands that have nailed it as yet. Back to the review and some critical tech. The 600.2 power amplifier stage deploys Sanken STD03 output devices, essentially Darlington pairs in a single device with built-in temperature compensating diodes to ensure optimal biasing. There are 4 output devices per side in this push-pull Class AB amplifier, capable of producing 160 watts per channel into 8 ohms, 300 watts into 4 ohms, and 500 watts into 2 ohms. Peak-to-peak maximum output current is rated at 50 amps. The power amplifier modules are based upon a scaled-down version of the £20,000 Titan amplifier that Musical Fidelity launched in 2009 and discontinued in 2018. Each output device has its own high current bulk supply capacitor. This local storage of energy for immediate access lowers signal impedance and distortion, according to Musical Fidelity. The preamplifier section is far from conventional either. The dual mono circuitry has separate power supplies for each channel and features a Class A tube buffer comprising 6 S51N Nu Vista tubes. Nu Vista tubes were first introduced by RCA on a product in 1959, just as transistors were taking off, so never gained popularity. Shame these small ceramic tubes offer high reliability, low microphony and lower noise than conventional glass tubes. In a preamp, they should theoretically last the lifetime of the amplifier. The Musical Fidelity Nu Vista 600.2 is a very special amplifier. I've got a number of comparisons for you, and no, I don't have them all here at the same time, but I'm not relying on audio memory. The benefit of having benchmark components that don't change over years is that they can provide a common point of reference. Let's start with Musical Fidelity's own M8S and M8S 500S. This pre-power combination from the range below will set you back a similar amount to the Nu Vista 600.2. With 500 watts per channel into 8 ohms, the M8s will handle speakers that are more difficult to deal with than certain world leaders at the moment. It's just a joke. I'm not stating any political preferences. The M8 combo is detailed, dynamic, but dry sounding, whereas the Nu Vista 600.2 is significantly cleaner, more natural in its tonal delivery, and throws out a much wider and deeper soundstage. I've only reviewed a handful of amplifiers that can rival my vintage Exposure 21 Pre and 18 Super monoblocks when it comes to the size of the soundstage, precision of stereo imaging, and the realistic timbre of notes. My old Exposures have a richer tone that I love and would probably miss, but the canvas that the Nu Vista amplifier paints on is just as big, with more clearly defined images and even better texture to vocals and instruments, allowing you to peer deeper into recordings. Playing the Afrobosa album by Duke Ellington, the strings, woodwind, brass and percussion sections are all better separated and more firmly located. When the full orchestra kicks in, my 21 Pre and 18 Super monoblocks lose some control, whereas the Musical Fidelity amp retains a vice-like grip. The control and the bass, lack of bleed through to the mid-range and transient attack are exemplary with this Musical Fidelity amplifier, but it also has authentic tonal delivery and excellent resolution all the way up the frequency range, and this unshakable ability to handle dynamic swings. The MVA P50 SA preamp and M600 monoblocks are sensational value for £4,000. They come close to the 600.2 in their ability to extract information and present it naturally, but are significantly less dynamic with a lighter bass. The Moor amps Angel Pre and Angel 4 power amp retail for just under £9,000. There's similar resolution to the 600.2 as well as lack of embellishment to the music. They fall somewhere between the MVA and Musical Fidelity amps in scale and dynamics. I've reviewed some very talented integrated amplifiers, so let me briefly talk about them. The £6,670 Sugden Masterclass IA4 does its own thing. Very good resolution, a creamy mid-range and plump bass. It also has the ability to sound very full at low listening levels. The Musical Fidelity may not have the low-level linearity of a Sugden, but they're a match for my exposures in this regard, and that's high praise. All of these amplifiers have a great ability to pull you into the music during those late night sessions where the listening peaks do not exceed 60 decibels. The Hegel H400, priced at £5,900, is the best amplifier I reviewed in 2024. With 250 watts per channel on tap into 8 ohms, it's a match for the 600.2 in bass gymnastics, soundstage and imaging, but not resolution or tone. The new Atoll IN400 Evo is another great amplifier, retailing for £5,500, similar in scale and detail retrieval to the H400, but trading some of the Hegel's precision for a warmer tone and better harmonic representation. They are two great amplifiers, significantly cheaper and more feature-packed than the new Vista 600.2, but in terms of overall sound quality, the Musical Fidelity is in a different class. So what do you need to get the best out of it? The Musical Fidelity Nu Vista 600.2 has the following lighting modes. Mode 0 is display and tube illumination off. Mode 1 is display off, tubes on. Mode 2 is display on, tubes off. And Mode 3 is display and tube illumination on. There are also 4 display options: input and volume in black, the addition of a VU meter, and the same 2 options available on a white background with black writing. The level of illumination can be changed by pressing the display button and then the standby button to lower brightness, or the lighting mode button to raise it. This amplifier is towards the top end of my self-imposed price limit, which I'm organically increasing over time, so naturally I wanted to throw everything at it that I had. The Auralic Aries G1 took care of transporter duties. It's a couple of generations old but very capable. It was feeding the new Denafrips Pontus 15th DAC that sets the standard for performance in the sub £3,000 category. The Alta audio Alessas that retail for £5,000 a pair handle transducer duties. They're still the best speakers I've auditioned for the money. You need something at this level to discover all that I've described, but if you're reaching to buy this amplifier and that leaves you a little bit short on your speaker budget, then I have a suitable alternative that runs the Alyssas closer than they have any right to for the price. The £1,800 Quad Revela ones don't have quite the bass extension and definition of the Alyssas. They also have a more forward mid-range with less treble refinement, but scaled up superbly well. I never heard my vintage Product Response 1 SCs sound as good as they did through the new Vista 600.2. Not as much resolution in the frequency extremes as the quads, but a more textured and relaxed mid-range with richer tone. I expect this Musical Fidelity amplifier to be pretty agnostic to partner equipment, but the better the equipment and recording you play through it, the more you'll be rewarded. The Musical Fidelity Nu Vista 600.2 is a luxury product in every sense. The back-breaking weight, quality chassis work, and purist design approach may make you feel good about your purchase, but this is where the richness and openness of tubes is mated with solid-state power to glorious effect. All the benefits of both technologies without any of the usual drawbacks. I normally have something to criticize, but the new Vista 600.2 doesn't put a foot wrong. I've heard aspects of this performance in other amplifiers before, but here it all comes together. Great dynamics, extraordinary control, a totally natural tonal presentation, extraordinary resolution, all presented in a cavernous soundstage with faultless imagery. If you can afford it, go buy it. The Musical Fidelity Nu Vista 600.2 emphatically gets an outstanding from this channel. Someone's bound to ask me, so you're going to ditch your exposures for this amplifier? And for the first time in 5 years I can say that I'd love to, But there are some practical considerations. I can't leave it on the floor, it won't fit on my rack. I'm not sure a bigger rack will fit in the corner of my room. I may have to get creative, and then I still have to talk to Musical Fidelity to see what kind of deal they'll do for me. I know I'm very fortunate that I don't have to buy things at retail prices anymore, but that did get me thinking about my question for today. What are products that you would love to accommodate in your home but somehow struggle? Please let me know in the comments section. I'm sure you know what to do by now if you want to support me here and what I do. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Check me out on Patreon, there's a couple of tiers you can access there if you think I can help you on your audiophile journey. Also check out the ABA Club on Patreon, which has some great ways to interact with me and fellow Patreons. But for today, for now, a British audiophile, signing off.